So insecure direct object reference, I would like to call it as a brother or a sister of broken access control. So it's basically similar, it's the same thing, but again, ID is the,
Yeah, there are some
ID comes into
nuances
play.
to that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
An ID comes into play. That's it. Previously, we were fiddling around with URLs, but now we will be doing the same with the IDs. So again, I like to give examples. So we're going to continue with that as well. So back in time when I was in college and we had to attend a particular fest of a college, we always had this annoying security and they were like, you can't get in.
Yeah.
So what we used to do, obviously we being sneaky kids back in time, we used to show the ID card of our friend and we would just get the access to the college fest. Yeah. So again, moving on to the web application perspective of things, because obviously this podcast is about web applications and not really getting into college fest. So what we are going to do is, in a web application, what happens, let's say there is a file and it is intended for an user with an ID, you can see in the diagram as well, 1000. But what the attacker does is, I don't want to access my document, or I don't want my document. I want to access the document of other users. So he changes the ID from 1000 to 102. And the web application is so misconfigured that he says, don't even mention it, and he just sends all of the data.
Yeah.
So examples again include altering a URL or parameter value to access another user's profile. I gave you an example of a document, but trust me, really, it goes to a whole different scenario. Likewise, you can access another user's profile, invoice, confidential document that are not originally accessible. So again, even in my pen test, I have came across this vulnerability a lot of times, and I have even managed to take account takeovers always. We'll give an example of that as well in the practical demonstration. So some of these real-time scenarios is that a standard user can comment as other users in the web application, like for example, administrator user. A standard user can access dashboards of administrators. An attacker can download a confidential document again, and a user gains administrative privileges. Again, you can read through all of these slides. This will be more understandable when you move on to practical sides of things. Again, before the practical, I would like to give you one more disclaimer, is that please understand that all of these things are made for educational purposes. Do not try this at your organization, home or work, because in case you get in trouble, Redfox Security is not really responsible for it. Yeah. So let's move on to the practical. What we have is, we have a normal user, that is Aaron, and we have our administrator user as well. So go to Aaron's profile and you move to shop. So what we are going to do in this case is, we are going to comment as a administrator. Yeah, administrator user. So you click on view details here, and you can see that there is a OpenSuite comment section that has been created. Now, what we are going to do is, let's type a review. Let's say, that's a cool chair. And you're going to move to burp. Okay, you're just going to normal. So before, actually, I would really like to discuss it. Before you in pen test, I would really suggest people to not just go for exploitations all the time. Sometimes it's more of understanding the functionality of the web application. So in this case, let's say you type a review. You can see that the review is being posted. And now what you could do is, you can now use burp. Let's say this is a test review. You can use burp now, and you can intercept the request. And if you intercept the request here and scroll down, can you give the viewers a spoiler?
Yeah. So over here we have already intercepted the request, and the user ID mentioned of that particular user is 5. Okay. So what we will be doing is, we will be manipulating that particular user ID to administrator user's ID, so that we might be able to post the comment or the review as an admin.
Yes. Now, yes, exactly. So there are ways to go about it as well. Now, we know the ID. So we can see that while again, I would like to repeat the part. When we are testing this functionality before we get into the exploitation part of things. You can see it means that while posting a comment, a user's ID is visible in the request. So please keep this in mind. Now, when we move to I would like to turn intercept off because I want you to get to know the user administrator's ID as well. In a pen test, realistically, you have the administrator's access. You can just go to his profile, try to comment and then drop the request. You'll get the ID. But again, there are cases where people, they just store it in the source code. So if you navigate to the source code, you can see that the admin ID here has been mentioned as 7. So that is how one thing to go about for CTFs, but in pen test, I really don't think so. You need to, guess the ID because you already know.
So what he means is sometimes you might find some hidden gems in the page source or the JavaScript files which are dependency file which loads when a particular application is running on your browser.
Let's call it a pen test review. Okay. And now I'm going to intercept this. And now what we are going to do is, we are going to just change the ID from phi to our administrator user's ID. Okay? And if you turn intercept off right now, you can see, and if you scroll down, you can see that now the comment is actually posted on behalf of the administrator user and not Aaron. That was our logged in session, as you can see. So that was the first scenario. And now the second scenario that we are going to discuss is actually about escalating this IDOR vulnerability to a potential account takeover. So this exactly happened in one of my client tests as well. So it was amazingly, it had access controls in place, but you know what happened? These guys actually leaked the ID in the profile picture of the user.
Okay.
So using the profile, when I opened the profile picture of a normal user in a new tab, I could get the ID of that particular user. So what happened is, again, I was, going through a series of things. I was testing different functionalities. And what happened is that I could see a change password functionality in my user. Yeah. And there the ID was visible in the URL. So I was like, hey, what if I actually change this ID to that of the other users whose profile picture was visible? And then, take an account takeover. So let's move on to that. That is exactly what we are going to do in this vulnerability right now. So you are into the reset password functionality, and you can see that you are logged in as the administrator user account here as well. So let me just bring it to the default table. Okay, so now we are going to intercept again the reset password. You are going to navigate to reset password again. Let's set a random password, test@123, and you're going to use burp suit. If you click on update password, and if you check the request, you can see
the user ID parameter is mentioned, which we might be able to manipulate. Or in some cases, there might be server-side validation with respect to that particular token or the authentication mechanism implemented. So in that particular scenarios, it might not be possible. But we always try to check whatever we can, right? We just try to be as stringent with our testing as possible.
Yes, yeah. And it's true because even if you are manipulating the ID, the thing is the web application, if there are server-side checks, we will move to mitigation parts. But let me you have brought that point, so let us just clear it out for the audience. So you might be wondering, hey, what's happening? Because the web application is configured in a way where it's not actually checking the cookie or the token of the user, and it's solely relying on the ID. You can just check. In the request as well, it is solely relying on ID. Now there are a lot of applications, so even in pen test, it might be, you would be like, hey, I'm just close to, exploiting the IDOR vulnerability, and you probably think that now I'm going to report the account takeover as well. But access controls are in place because the server is still checking your cookie and your token as well. But in IDOR, specifically what happens, this application has weak access controls, and all it is doing is checking the ID. So you are going to forward this request. Okay, you are going to change the user ID, and let's say you already have test@password 123 test@123 set. Now if you turn intercept off, you can see that the password is updated. Now let's just check if our vulnerability has succeeded or not.
Yeah.
Log out of this session. You can say admin@gmail.com. Log in with the newly set password that we did before, and you click login. Just a sec. Oh, my bad. Maybe it's some issue from my side. I will just go through the process again. So we log into the normal user account, we go to the profile, we click on reset password, we set a new password, test@12345, let's say. And now we go to Bolt Suite, we intercept this request, and we change the ID from 5 to 7, which was the ID of the administrator user. Now you click forward and you turn the intercept off. Now you can see that nothing really is showing, but now if you log out of this application again, and I hope this should work as intended, which I'm pretty sure it will. Test@12345, right? Yep. You can see we actually now are able to access the administrator profile. So now if you click on go to admin profile, you can see that you were, by actually manipulating the ID, you were able to perform a potential account takeover on behalf, potential account takeover of the administrator user account. So that is it about IDOR. Any questions that you want to ask regarding this?
No. Can you explain the mitigations that we will be implementing apart from the server side validation for each and every user?
Okay, so I think a lot of these mitigations were actually discussed while we were performing the practical as well, but that's fine. I will still go through it again. Yeah. So one thing is you can implement UUIDs that are basically integers, that are big size integers, and they are hard to guess. Secondly, there are, it's like you can replace direct object reference with indirect mapping. So it's something like you can use unique integers, or let's say a combination, for example, capital A with some stars, asterisks, symbols.
Yeah. So what he means to say is remove the object reference, and based on the session ID or the authentication mechanism token implemented, you can base the authentication on that, apart from the object reference that is included in the URL or the post parameter of the application, of the request.
Yes. So mainly don't make your web application solely focus on the IDs. Also make sure that cookies and tokens are still being checked by the server.